Trump has repeatedly threatened to prosecute Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Liz Cheney.
Maybe it's not smart to run an election where you have no vision, no record to run on.
Do you believe
that
the 2024
call the other side names?
The chairman of the DNC called it straight up BS.
The working class of this country is angry, and they have a reason to be angry. And what Donald Trump did is provided an explanation.
On top of the economy, on top of the price of gas, on top of the inflation, that's why they voted for President Trump.
We're out of time.
Okay, do you want to see CNN host Dana Bash malfunction when not one, but two senators from opposite sides of the aisle hit her with a reality check that was brutal? We're talking about Jim Jordan and Bernie Sanders. And it just seems to me that the left-wing media, they are refusing to accept a simple truth, and we're going to expose it to you in this video. Let's start with Jim Jordan.
Trump has repeatedly threatened to prosecute Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Liz Cheney, Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, General Mark Milley, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, New York AG Letitia James, and that's just some of the people he has talked about. Do you support him using the Justice Department to go after the people who disagree?
He didn't do it his first term. What I support is stopping.
Right, but this is a second term.
What I support is stopping this lawfare, stopping this political targeting, political cases. We all know the Fonnie Willis case, the Alvin Bragg case, and the Jack Smith cases were all driven by politics. The American people understood it. That's why they had this overwhelming win. One of the reasons this overwhelming win for President Trump. So I'm against the retribution. I'm against the Justice Department saying if you're a mom and dad showing up at a school board meeting, we're going to investigate you. I'm against the FBI putting together a memorandum at the Richmond field office which said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist.
So I just
we want all that to stop.
I just want to put a button on this. So what you are saying is that all of the times that President Trump said so many things about people that he promised that he would go after them and prosecute them, you were going to encourage him not to do that?
Well, all I know is what he didn't do. That.
I know, but we're talking
about lock her up. You know, he's talking about his opponent in 2016, Secretary Clinton, talked about lock her up. He didn't do that. He didn't go. But the Democrats went after him.
I know, but I'm talking about Donald Trump's
what they did is
second
wrong.
term.
Okay, so you're already starting to see what their strategy is moving forward. That is CNN, which is to keep living in the past. She wants to focus on the rhetoric during the campaign. We know that both candidates say what they need to say in order to get votes. We know that majority of the things they say are not actually going to happen, whether they are promises or even threats, right? I mean, let's just use some common sense here.
I mean, going forward,
I
since then, he has said many times.
I don't think any of that's going to happen because we're the party who's against political prosecution. We're the party who's against going after your opponents using lawfare. In fact, I think this is one of the issues that the
So it was just
said,
a campaign rhetoric? It wasn't real?
Well, I think he's pointing out what's going on. The retribution. Actually, Liz Cheney in January 6th went after President Trump, said things that weren't accurate, I think, in their report. The other individuals he's talked about have been part of this retribution going after President Trump. Never forget, it started clear back before he was in office. They spied on his campaign in 2016.
But I am not talking about...
for 8 years, they've been going after President
Trump.
He
won.
He sure did. He won big.
He won big. So my question and what people want to know is what he is going to do.
I think he's going to do.
Just for example, 2 days ago, he called for investigations into anyone spreading rumors.
I think he's going to secure the border. I think he's going to get rid of this crazy inflation that's hurting middle class and working class families, hurting our economy. I think he's going to get back to common sense energy policy. I think he's going to focus on protecting the First Amendment. I mean, think about this. Did you ever think you would see Donald Trump, Elon Musk, RFK Jr., and Tulsi Gabbard on the same team? They were on the same team because of the attack on free speech, the attack on the First Amendment. He's going to focus on those things that the American people elected him to do.
Just a few things for you. Number one, you need to judge people by what they do, not necessarily what they say, especially in politics, because what they do leads to outcomes. Which leads me to the second thing here is if you're judging Trump by what he has done, then you would know that he's not a person that's about prosecuting his political opponents. If we apply the same standard to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in that administration, we know that they are about prosecuting their political opponents. And thirdly, the mandate to Trump is very clear about what he is going to do. This is why people voted for him, because they knew what they were going to get: a better economy, a secured border, peace in the Middle East. Okay, so here's the point where CNN Dana Bash malfunctions when she brings up election fraud. Watch.
There were false claims about election fraud. when Donald Trump lost. This time, Donald Trump won, and you think the election was free and fair. Do you see there's a little bit of a...
No, I think the Democrats got to ask, why did we
there?
go from getting 81 million to getting 70 million? What happened to those 10 million people? Maybe they need to, maybe it's not smart to run an election where you have no vision, no record to run on.
Do you believe that the
call the other side names?
Do you believe that the 2024 election was free and fair?
I do.
And why was it different from 2020 when he lost? Is that the only difference?
No, there were concerns about 2020 with all the mail-in voting that happened. You know, what Pennsylvania had like 2-point-something million mail-in ballots come in without any signature verification, which was required under Pennsylvania statute. So there were all kinds of concerns with how the 2020 election was carried out. But
there was absolutely
the biggest question Democrats need to be asking, what happened to the 10 million voters that Joe Biden got that didn't come out for Kamala Harris? A bunch of them, President Trump's numbers were right up where they were in 2020, but the Democrats were much lower. I think it's because they had no vision, no record to run on, and they just wanted to call everyone names. Turns out when you tell people, oh, you're fascist, racist, deplorable garbage, they don't like that. And then when you use lawfare to go after their candidate, they don't like that either.
Well,
that's why they came out. So on top of the economy, on top of the price of gas, on top of the inflation, that's why they voted for President Trump.
I'm so glad someone has stated this out loud, because even I noticed that 81 million to her 69. What happened to those votes there? Oh, I know what happened. Clearly, there was a surge in mail-in voting during COVID, right? And he clearly stated that they didn't even follow the law. So whether you believe it was intentional election fraud or unintentional election fraud, we know there were discrepancies that led to an influx in the voting numbers. And if you don't want to take me on that and you don't want to believe that, then you must believe the second point, which is then she was a terrible candidate to the point where people did not want to vote for her. So I guess you're just going to have to pick and choose your battles here. Now, one battle that is dead on arrival is his former comms director who is on CNN and is demanding Joe Biden to resign because he wants Kamala Harris to still make history, even though she already did by getting defeated in such an embarrassing way. Listen to this.
Joe Biden's been a phenomenal president. He's lived up to so many of the promises he's made. There's one promise left that he could fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days, make Kamala Harris the president of the United States.
Whoa.
It would absolve her from being able to, from having to oversee the January 6th transition, right, of her own defeat. And it would make sure that it would dominate the news at a point where Democrats have to learn drama and transparency and doing things that the public want to see. Is the time. This is the moment for us to change the entire perspective of how Democrats
this
operate.
has now jumped from an internet meme to a Sunday morning show.
Jamal's out here right now.
Congratulations.
Season of House of Cards.
I thought you were going to say, what about the Supreme Court? That's also out there.
Well, the Supreme Court might happen. I don't know if it will, but I think this is something that's in Joe Biden's control. And if he did it, it would fulfill his last promise. It would give Kamala Harris the chance to be the 47th president of the United States of America. It would disrupt all of Donald Trump's paraphernalia, right? You have to rebrand everything. But and it would make it easier for the next woman who runs for president to not have to worry about all the historical, weight of being the first. We can solve
that,
this problem.
Brad.
I have something that's
All right, so I just have a few responses to this immediately. Clearly, this is a joke, right? I mean, this is the only way to take it, which is why you see Scott Jennings laughing at the other end of the table. But more seriously, why would you do that to the first woman president? Just hand it over to her? Wouldn't the first woman president, especially a woman of color, want to earn the presidency? Which leads me to the third thing. They're just so deranged with this whole DEI stuff. It's already enough that she was made vice president, not because of the merits, but because the color of her skin and her gender. Now you want to hand her the presidency? I mean, this is just pathetic. But these are the type of people that were involved in her campaign, that are clearly involved in the Democratic Party. And no wonder America stood up and rejected this nonsense. Okay, so here's the other thing, though. First, you want people to get Joe Biden to resign, give her the presidency. And secondly, they want people to have her become a Supreme Court justice. I mean, these Democrats are out of their mind Good thing, though, that Bernie Sanders is not having it.
Senator, quickly before I let you go, I do want to ask you about the Supreme Court. Some Democrats behind the scenes quietly talking about the possibility, should Justice Sotomayor step down, to allow President Biden to appoint someone who's younger. She's only 70 years old. Is that something that you would support? Do you think she should step down?
No, I don't.
Have you heard any talk of this?
A little bit, yes. I don't think it's a sensible approach.
And you don't think it's a sensible approach?
Correct.
I mean, how much more clear does he have to be? I mean, this is just desperation screaming from the mountaintops when it comes to the Democratic Party. Now, since we're on Bernie Sanders, here is him digging in on why he was firing back on the Democratic Party, on how they've been handling the working class.
I want to start with the scathing response that you gave after the Democrats lost, Kamala Harris lost pretty big. You said the Democrats abandoned the working class. The chairman of the DNC called it straight up BS and said Joe Biden is the most pro-worker president of my lifetime. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she disagreed with you. She added, quote, Bernie Sanders has not won. Do you stand by what you said?
Oh, absolutely. Look, Joe Biden is a friend of mine. I've been proud to work with him on an agenda which has been very strongly in favor of the working class. Biden promised to be the most progressive president since FDR. In many ways, on domestic issues, I think he kept his word. But here is the reality. The working class of this country is angry, and they have a reason to be angry. We are living in an economy today, Donna, where the people on top are doing phenomenally well, while 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. 25% of elderly people are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, and parents all over this country worry that their kids may have a lower standard of living than they do. That is the economic reality. And what Donald Trump did is provided an explanation.
Now, once again, that truth that the left-wing media does not want to accept, they don't report on that economic reality, right? They refuse to give it attention. They kept giving attention to these so-called accomplishments from the Biden administration that is strictly on paper and not actually in the lives of everyday Americans. You know, when they say, well, you know, inflation's at the lowest it's ever been. Yeah, but the damage has already been done. Now, since we're on that topic of the economic reality that the left-wing media does not want to accept, it also includes people who voted and supported Kamala Harris, people in the media. And here is Charlemagne, who is shocked when ABC John Carl exposes who actually voted for Trump. Watch.
What do you make of the demographics here? I mean, Trump got 1 out of every 3 voters of color.
No.
Yeah.
1 out of
33%.
No. Really?
Yeah.
When you say color, you mean like black, brown, everything? Oh, well, I think that, you know, people have different issues that they care about. And I think that there's nobody out there that's a single issue voter. I think some of this is a backlash to race and gender and identity politics. But, man, most people, they just care about keeping food on their table and keeping a roof over their head. And I think sometimes people forget about that. I think that they forget about, you know, the working class. And for whatever reason, Donald Trump speaks to the grievances of the working class in a real way. And I keep telling folks, people will forget what you did. They'll forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Now, what's I find funny is I've been saying this for so long now. And in fact, before I get to this point, please, if you're getting value from this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our channel. If you want to support us further, go to the link in the description below. You could shop our merch store, like the shirt that I'm wearing here, or you could just buy us a cup of coffee. Charlemagne is an example why I think the left-wing media is finished, because it takes a catastrophic event for them to finally start insinuating at the truth. Where was this talk 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, a month ago? You know what Charlemagne was complaining about 2 weeks ago? He was pushing back on Anderson Cooper because he believed CNN didn't cover enough negative information about Trump. I mean, this guy is unhinged. And what makes it worse during this experience that we have been going through as a country with the left-wing media is how they double down and insult you for saying, no, this is actually the truth, or labeling what we're saying as misinformation. Here's Dave Smith on this.
I hate them so much. And I really think they deserve it. And it's not just that they lie about everything. It's like they lie about everything and then they have the nerve to morally judge us. Like if you just watch even just the last few weeks of the Trump election, they're not in the business of reporting the news. They're totally just in the business of making you feel like you're a bad person if you don't fall in line with the regime.
Just spot on with what he was saying, because on election night, when it was clear that Trump became the president-elect, here is Stephanie Ruhle saying exactly and doing exactly what Dave Smith just said. Watch this.
We have now let misinformation become the accepted information. It has washed over us. Elon Musk, he buys Twitter, and then he uses it almost exclusively to be a propaganda machine, and we've accepted it. We've accepted a narrative that despite an actually great economic recovery, the vibes don't feel good. So we want to reject it and get something else. And the person we are now betting on to change all of it is Donald Trump, a man who did two almost impossible things. He won the American presidency twice, and he drove a casino into the ground. What will the future hold now that America has just decided that we're going to F around and find out?
That one truth that they refuse to accept is that they are not the only voice that matters. In fact, the American people, their voice actually matters more than the media, because they are the one who is going to the ballot box and voting our leaders in. That is my opinion. So what do you guys think about Jim Jordan having to set CNN Dana Bash straight, because we know she wants to live in the past? What about the fact that a Kamala Harris comms director, wants Joe Biden to resign the presidency? I mean, how desperate is that? And then they want a Supreme Court justice to also retire to put Kamala Harris on there? No, thank you. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments section below. Of course, this video has been about what's happening post-election. And one of the other stories that have come out that is really a true scandal is how the Kamala Harris campaign raised $1 billion and they're now in debt by $20 million. And we did shoot a video on that, and it's on the channel now. And guess what? You can watch it because it's coming up right now.